I'm Travis. I'm president of Inflow Communications. I've been involved in the designing and selling of ShoreTel, everything ShoreTel, for over a decade now, and Chris has as well. He's our director of operations. So as a company, Inflow lives, eats, breathes ShoreTel, and as people, we do as well. This is something that you probably want to pay attention to. We have 2 standard maintenance plans. We've added some things, so as your support contracts come up for renewal, some of you should be seeing some of these additional features. Most of our customers are on the gold plan. That's the checkbox column on the left up there. In addition to the standard stuff with hardware replacement and all the software updates that we'll do for you or with you, all of the telephone and email and web chat support, we're also adding some things like the proactive monitoring and response to critical alarms. We'll implement some services on your system to where if there's a specific critical alarms that happen, like down PRI or a down short gear switch or things like that, that we'll be notified proactively in our ticketing system, and the idea is that we'll be working on it before you do. So we're excited about that. We think that's a differentiator for us. Our backup service, that's where we'll back up your director database and all to an encrypted server backup in our Amazon cloud. So if there's ever a geographic or a total disaster, we at least have your configuration database backed up. And the one we're probably most excited about is our Inflow Analytics. That's basically the bulk of our customers will get that. That's where we provide the reporting and the analytics, the business intelligence that comes out of the ShoreTel system is beautiful. We have some screenshots for that. And I think some of you on the call have probably seen it, or maybe if your support contracts have renewed, we've put you on this. But this is just another differentiator that Inflow is providing, and additional tools that we're providing for our customers. So far, we've just received raving reviews. People are getting statistics out of the system they've never seen before. It's so much easier to use. They're able to provide their executives business intelligence that they haven't been able to do before. So we're pretty excited about that. And then this, what we're doing every month, we're doing the monthly admin training, so that's included as an Inflow customer. Our Platinum services are more of a fully managed solution. That's where perhaps you don't want to be doing the daily move data changes, or you don't want to be sitting on the phone with the carriers all day long troubleshooting D-channel issues on your PRI or whatever the case is. We'll manage all the carrier services for you. We'll do all of your ongoing programming changes, and we'll conduct unlimited ongoing live web-based user training. So as you hire people and you need to train them up on ShoreTel Communicator and the handsets, et cetera, it's a web-based training service live with one of our trainers. But that way your current employees and your future employees, as you're hiring them, are continually leveraging the system the best way they can. Again, some of these services are new, so if you have any questions about it, ask your sales rep or ask one of your support engineers about what we're providing for these. But we feel that our maintenance plans are innovative and unparalleled, mostly in the industry when it comes to supporting ShoreTel phone systems. This is just a screenshot of Inflow Analytics. Again, we can provide more information on this if you want to know more about it. But this is, I mean, if you look at the lines across the top of the screen, this is a really nice tool people love, to where they can type a specific phone number, let's say a publicly facing phone number, click a button, and it maps out the entire call flow of the ShoreTel system. So they're not having to go through and pick through ShoreTel Director and mapping it out in their own Visio application or whatever the case is. This is a one-click, immediate representation of all the call flow throughout your system, auto-attendant options, work groups, hunt groups, etc. Also down the screenshots that are on the bottom left-hand side of your screen, those are cradle-to-grave reporting. I can type a phone number in that perhaps called my system, hit go, I can see that call came in to my auto attendant, they selected 2, went to an operator, maybe went into a work group, transferred out of a work group or our enterprise contact center queue. Cradle to grave reporting, beautiful, works great. So you can get kind of a glimpse on the analytics that we're providing with Inflow Analytics. Is fantastic. Everything that ShoreTel can report on can be seen in this system, and you can drill down from top to bottom very easily. So we're really, again, we're just getting rave reviews around Inflow Analytics, and we're having a lot of success with it. So we're very excited about it. So this is where I'll hand it off to Chris, and we talk about the top monthly ShoreTel administration questions, then I'll jump into the ShoreTel advanced applications.
Well, as Travis mentioned, I'm Chris Mitchell. I'm the Director of Operations for Inflow. So as I was kind of looking at, over the last couple of months what topics we covered and looking at, the different topics we should cover this month, one of the ones I kept getting a lot of requests for was for external forwarding. We get a lot of customers that say, well, how do I, after hours, if a customer wants to be able to press a digit 2 maybe and get transferred to an engineer's cell phone, or maybe for a medical facility on an on-call location or something like that. So we always tell customers, well, yeah, we can definitely do that. We use route points to complete that. If you're looking at route points in the system, it does explain, to you what you can use a route point for. So some of the stuff we can use route points for is integration with third-party systems. So a lot of time, if you have a call center solution or a call recording solution that we're integrating with, we'll use a route point to kind of pass data between the ShoreTel system and the third-party system. But in this case, we're going to use a route point to forward calls out to an answering service or to some other destination. So we can use a user can transfer a call to this. We can also have a user's voicemail, say if you need assistance, press 0, and they could actually transfer to a route point which forwards out to an answering service or something. The most common use is an auto attendant. Press a digit and auto attendant. Instead of telling them, if you need customer service, please call this phone number, just say, if you need customer service, press 2, and we'll forward it out to a third-party customer service solution or something that a customer contracts with. And then sometimes we just need a customer who says, well, we don't actually do this service anymore, but we still have this phone number. We've sold this service, or somebody else handles this service for us. Can we take this phone number, just route it out of our system? So yeah, we say, okay, let's build a route point and put a DID on it, and we'll just route the call as it comes in our system, and then we just automatically forward it back out of the system so that we don't have to deal with that call. Nobody from your team is required to answer a call just to transfer the call out, so we can kind of automate that process. So how do we do that? So the first thing is we log into Shoreware Director. We expand our call control, and you'll see route points down at the bottom, or in the middle, really, of the call control option. So we go ahead and select the route points option. On the right side of the screen, you're going to get any route points you already have configured in the system. But at the top, you'll see that it says Route Points Add New, just so you see on that screenshot in the bottom of that page there. You simply click the Add New button. All right, so when we hit Add New, it's going to give us an Edit Route Point page. This is where we're going to kind of give it a name. Whatever you give it this name is what it's going to be displayed in the directory on the phone, and also the directory in your communicator software for when everybody's looking up different stuff. So we want to give it a name. We need to pick an extension number for it. It can be really any extension you want. It's just the extension we transfer calls to so that they get forwarded out of the system. The DID range, you can see I don't have the DID range checked, but if I simply check that, if somebody were to call a DID, I can auto forward it out to this answering service route point that I'm building. As you go down, the user group where it says staff right there, the only important thing to worry about on the user group was we need to give this route point a user group who has access to forward calls. So sometimes we want to forward the calls to a long distance phone number. We just need to make sure the user group that we're using has permission to forward long distance calls. Or in some case, we have one customer who does international, so we then make sure the user group has international rights. By default, your route point server should just be your main voicemail server. Unless you're doing integration with some third party, then we would set that server to a different server for integration purposes. But for this purposes of forwarding calls out, we just want to assign it to the voicemail server. We can uncheck all of the mailbox server options because obviously we don't need to take messages or anything on this extension. There's one other important feature on the bottom that says call stack depth. What this is this tells the system how many concurrent calls should we allow to hit this route point and forward out. It only needs, from when we transfer a call to extension 1844, it's going to connect, an outbound call. It's only using this route point for, usually up to 30 seconds, just depending on how long it takes to connect that call and that other party to answer. Once the other party answers, the route point is out of the mix. So we just need to know in a 30-second window, really, how many concurrent calls do we want to allow. I usually recommend 10 or 20, depending on what your call volume is going to be. The second half of the configuration is the bottom half of the route point configuration, and this is where we have some different options. We can actually apply a schedule to this, so during your on hours, if somebody transfers to this extension, we can forward it to one phone number, and after hours or holiday, we could actually forward it to a different number if we needed to. So in this case, I just want to create a route point. Anytime I transfer a call, it's just going to forward to this 888 number. So in my schedule, I put it to none, which means always use the on hours, 24/7. 365. So then I put in the external phone number in there. You do see you do need to put the 9 or if you use an 8 for your outside digit plus, to make it international, compatible. And then you put the phone number in afterwards. I just made up an 800 number. I don't think that's an active number. It probably is, but not one that we use. So yeah, I put that in there, and then I simply hit the save button on the top of the page. Once I save that, I'm able to simply dial the extension 1844, and it would route my call out the 888-800-1234. So pretty simple to build. We have a number of our customers that are using this feature. It's very easy to use. There's no licensing required to do this, which is nice. We can build as many route points as we need. We do have a limitation of route points per server at 254. Well, that's really easy. If we need more than that, we simply spin up a secondary ShoreTel voicemail server, and I can build 254 more ports on the next server. So not a big deal. Really we have unlimited capability here as needed. The next topic we're going to kind of talk about is voicemail distribution lists. And there's two ways to use voicemail distribution lists. The first one is, do I need to send an email or a voicemail out to all of my engineering team? Or does Travis want to send a voicemail out to the whole company saying, hey, congratulations, we made, ShoreTel's Contact Center Partner of the Year. We can do that with voicemail distribution lists. And there's two ways to accomplish this. Today we're going to be talking about system distributions, which are controlled by the IT staff in Shorebird Director. The second way is in your communicator under your voicemail. Users can actually create their own personal distribution list to send voicemails out. These ones are usually more departmental that the IT team controls. Both of them work the same way. The advantage of using the system distribution list is it gets an extension number assigned to it. So you simply call an extension number, leave a voicemail, and 20, 100 users, whatever you want, all get notification that they have a new voicemail. Usually our first question there is, well, how much storage are you taking up on my server now if I do that? Well, the nice thing about the ShoreTel system is we only take one voicemail. So we store, let's say, a 200 or 300K file on the ShoreTel server. And then in the 100 mailboxes, we actually just put a pointer in each mailbox telling them, hey, you have a message. When they need to listen to it, grab this one file. So everybody's actually listening to the exact same file. When they listen to it and they delete their message, it just deletes the pointer. When the last pointer in the system gets deleted, at night when the database maintenance occurs, that voicemail gets deleted from the system. So we're only storing one voicemail message, but we're allowing hundreds of users access to that one voicemail message. So we're not taking up a bunch of extra storage space on the server. So how do we create one of these? So we log into Shorebird Director. We expand our voicemail option. You'll see we have the first option, we have a system distribution list. And by default, ShoreTel actually creates a couple in here. I think they call one staff, one managers, one executives. A lot of our customers, we just, we'll just delete those and create custom ones if you want to use some. There's no reason to use one of theirs when you can rename it and stuff like that as needed. There will be another one in there called broadcast. And broadcast is just how the system does its system distribution. So it won't let you delete the broadcast one. You just want to create your own by simply clicking the Add New button. If you've already have one in there, you just simply click on the link to one of your system distribution lists, and you can add users, change extensions as needed to that distribution list. So as I hit the Add New button, I'm going to get a nice big screen for editing and building a new one. So I went ahead and named mine Engineering Voicemail, and then it wants an extension number. The extension number you'll dial. We've even had some people who, when they pick this extension number, they can call in to an auto attendant after hours for bad weather, and whoever's making that decision simply dials his extension number, and they can send out a voicemail letting everybody know that due to bad weather we're not going to be working today, and then they'll send out an email. So that way people get an email and they get a voicemail notification of either closed due to bad weather, or if you're closing down. We had one customer who wanted to use it because they were giving everybody Christmas Eve off, and they wanted just kind of a personalized greeting from the from the president. So they sent out a voicemail greeting, letting everybody know that they were going to have Christmas Eve off along with Christmas Day. Recorded name there. So you want to put a recorded name into the greeting, so that way when somebody calls an extension, they know what distribution list they that they're getting to. If you have you can import a greeting. Or you can simply, if you pick an extension number, you can hit the record button and you can have your phone ring and you can record. Engineering distribution list is the name. Whatever, something can identify this mailbox when you're leaving a message. So then the next thing we need to add some users to the system. So on the left-hand side, you have your whole list. It's going to separate out, the list. You can see I'm doing it by extension in this. In the drop-down list for sort by, you can pick extension, you can pick first name, you can pick last name. And then you just start putting users into it. You can put 100 users into it. You can put 10. I think I have about 10. 10. I just picked 10 of the engineering team. And when I was building this one, but once you get everybody added, you simply hit the save button on the top. Once we hit the save button, this distribution list takes a mere seconds to build up, and then it's ready. And you simply dial the extension 1846 in this case, and you can leave a voicemail message. And then everybody's light on their phone is going to, once we leave a message, it's going to start blinking, and they're going to see, oh, I missed a call. When they hit their voicemail, they'll be able to see that it's, listen to the message, delete the message as needed, forward it to another employee if they need to, just like a regular voicemail. There's nothing different to the end user than if I just left a voicemail on their extension. So lately we've been doing a lot of school districts and in education stuff. So one big thing we've been doing a lot is with this paging groups. So depending on the type of customer or company you run, companies that have warehouses or large buildings or multiple buildings, paging groups and paging systems become very integrated parts of their business, and really important as far as notification for safety purposes. So a couple of the features we can do with paging groups is most people know that we can make announcements on the phone. So I dial an extension and I turn, let's say 20 phones come off hook, and over the speakerphone I just make an announcement. Hey, this is Chris. I'm just locking up. If anybody's here, please call me at extension 7535. So that's a very basic use of a paging group, just in case everybody doesn't have keys or you're turning on the alarm system at night. A lot of companies will just do a page throughout the building, just let everybody know, hey, I'm locking up. If you're still here, let me know. Another good use is overhead paging systems. You put in overhead paging systems to cover big buildings or warehouses. We dial an extension, we turn on the overhead paging system, and we make announcements. Hey Travis, you have a call, on extension 7535, or hey Travis, give me a call, please call extension 7535. So good uses of overhead paging systems. What a lot of customers don't know is we can actually mix the two together. If you have certain areas that you have an overhead paging system because you don't have as many phones, but you have phones in other areas, we can actually mix the two together. We can actually go off hook on a batch of phones and turn on the overhead paging system and make a simultaneous announcement to both. So that's a pretty nice feature for our customers that have warehouse space. The other nice use is called priority paging, and customers in medical and stuff sometimes will use this if they need to make an emergency page. And you can actually if I'm talking on the phone to somebody and you need to make a page, the system can actually put my call on hold, play me the page, the emergency page, and then when the page is over, I go back to my call that was on hold, and it's called a priority page. So we can do a page of up to 100 people. In most cases, when we're paging that many people, it's going to do them in groups of 20, just to not overload your server or your network side. If we connect to 100 phones simultaneously, it does create a big network spike. So it usually does 20 phones, and then it stages them. So it does 20 phones, and it'll do 5 groups of 20 phones. So the page may take 30 to 40 seconds to complete if we're going to do a full 100 users, which is the cap. Most of our customers are in that 20 to 30 range where it can do it either in one group or it split them in half and do it in 2 groups. So there's 2 parts to a paging group. The first part is building an extension list. An extension list is really, just like it says, we need to create a list, name it, and put the users that are in that list. And that's step 1, using extension lists. Other uses for extension lists, if you have an auto attendant and you want to say, hey, press 1 for a dial by first name directory. But maybe at the Portland location, when they dial a 1 for a first name directory, maybe we only want to allow them to dial people in the Portland office, not all of our other locations. I can create an extension list and just put my Portland employees in it, and then in my auto attendant, when they press 1, I can select my extension list so they only can select from my Portland users. Another use is sometimes the executive team or the management team doesn't want to be in the dial by name directory. So we create an extension list, and we put all the employees in it, and then we remove the few admins that we want from the executives from the system, and we assign that to the auto attendant. So a couple of uses for the extension lists there. So to create one, we simply click the users, go down to extension lists, and on the right-hand side, you'll see any of the extension lists you currently have. You can either select one, delete it, click on it to open it up, or hit the new button to create one from scratch. So obviously, we're going to create one from scratch, so I'm going to click the new button, and I'll get the edit extension list page. Just like everything else we've been doing today, I need to give it a name. Whatever I give this name, it's not going to be, nobody in the system is going to see this name. It's not available in Communicator via the directory button. The extension lists are only available to see via the Shore Director page. And this is a lot simpler if you notice here. Really, I give it a name, and then I just need to put people into this list. So if I'm doing an engineering team, I just need to put all my engineering team, which I didn't put all my engineers in there, but Or if I wanted to create a Portland location, I put all my Portland employees, into here, or a whole company directory. I can simply add all the users that I want to this list, and then I simply click the Save button on the top, and that creates my extension list. You can create as many extension lists as you need. So if we have auto intents for all your locations or paging groups for each location, we can have an extension list that says Portland, Seattle, San Jose. We just did a separate extension list for each location, so we can have paging groups for each of your different locations. The next step is, now that we have an extension list, well, obviously there was no extension number or anything on that extension list, so we need a way to assign a phone number to that extension list. That's where paging groups come in. With a paging group, that's the extension side of things, is we pick an extension to assign to a paging group, and the paging group is what's going to control our extension list for us. So we expand our call control. Right above our call control, or above our route points that we used earlier, we go 2 up and we have our paging groups. From here we can modify, delete, add our new paging groups. So obviously I'm going to click New again. And this gives us our paging group configuration page. So I give it a name. Whatever name you do give it in here is going to be in the directory on the phones and in the communicator. So 2 ways of doing it. A lot of our customers who are going to do a lot of paging groups, what they'll do is in the name field, they put the word page and then a space hyphen and then a location or a description. That way when you're looking at the directory and you type the word page, you get all of your paging groups in one list. So you'll have page, Portland, Seattle, San Jose, Los Angeles, San Diego, the different locations that you can page to. And that keeps them all close together and, all together, instead of typing engineering and then getting, different engineering groups and then a page. If I put page in first, you can keep them all together. So we pick an extension number for assigning to this group, and then we need a server. So if you have multiple locations, you have voicemail servers at different locations, you can assign this paging group to whatever the local server is. So if I have a server in Seattle with my office up there's no reason for me to do my page in Portland, just to send the page across our internet connection up to Seattle, and then all those pages are going to go across our internet connection. So we can assign it to whatever server is local to the users that we're going to be paging. The next option is our dial by name directory. Should this paging group be available in our dial by name directory? For the most part, yes. Every once in a while, customers say, well, we don't want all the regular employees knowing about this paging extension, so they'll take it out of the dial by name directory. That takes it out of the phone directory. The next one is make number private. This is how you can hide it from the communicator. So if you just wanted to use this for emergency pages, what a lot of our customers will do in that case, if they're looking to use that feature, is they'll uncheck this dial by name and they'll check the make private, and then they'll program a button on a phone that just says dial extension 1846, and they'll label it page. And then when they physically push that button, it'll do a page, but it's really a hidden extension in the system. Nobody, unless they have access to Shoreware Director, they can't look up this extension. They can't find this extension. You have to know the actual extension number in order to use this feature. So sometimes that's a nice thing to have if you don't want, people paging, or everybody having access to overhead paging or to like priority paging. A lot of time if it's an emergency page, they'll program a button on everybody's phone but hide it from the system so that nobody can accidentally type, page and do an emergency page. The next option you'll see there is the priority paging. That's what we talked about. If I check that box, anytime I page this engineering group, it's going to put anybody's phone call on hold, make my announcement, and then go back to it. If I uncheck that box, we're going to say, if Travis is on the phone when this page happens and he's in the group, give him a second call using call waiting and let him decide if he's going to go ahead and answer that paging group call or not. And then right below you see no answer number rings. So we're going to give Travis 2 rings in that case if he was on the phone to answer the paging call. If he doesn't answer it, we're just going to skip him and make the announcement to everybody else in that group. When we're doing our priority paging, we have the 2 options for delivering. Active audio path is the most common because that way if I'm talking on my headset and you do a page and you want to put my call on hold, the audio will actually just play into my headset because that's what I was talking to my customer on or other employee on. The other option is speakerphone. So put my call on hold on my headset, play the announcement on my speakerphone. So that's your second option for group delivery. I usually recommend active audio path unless you're using the speakerphones to make announcements in like areas. So maybe you're not putting every phone in an area, but you still wanted to play this page. That's where I would use speakerphone. So that way, if 1 or 2 phones per like cubicle block is doing the paging, we'd want speakerphone so that the other phones around or users around those speakerphones could hear the paging announcement, and they wouldn't miss out because somebody was on the phone that was included in that group. So I hit a little bit on no answer number of rings. I usually recommend only ringing it 2 to 3 times because when I record my page, it's going to ring out to those phones. It does delay the page until it hits that 2 or 3 ring timeout. So you want to keep it fairly short as far as the number of rings. I'm not sure why you would ever want to do 255 rings, but for some reason, some engineer thought that should be the limit. So then you select your extension list here. So if I extension list, I just have a drop down. It just allows me to select from any of the extension lists that we have. I can hit edit extension list if I say, oh, well, I need to make sure who was in this list because I forgot who I built into this list if it was an existing list. Add some users, delete some users, hit the save on the extension list, and I can come back to this page and group page. The last option on the bottom is the group paging synchronization. So if we're doing a lot of users, what it tries to do is it tries to synchronize the page. So that way, if we're doing 20 phones, it wants all 20 phones to play the greeting or the message at the exact same time, rather than if one phone gets connected to the server faster than the other phone, we're going to wait 3 seconds to get as many of the phones connected as possible, and then we're going to go ahead and play the announcement. Otherwise, you kind of get what's called a wave effect, where if I turn that down to 0, once a phone connects, it starts playing the greeting. So we can have, throughout the office, you can actually hear it playing on a bunch of different phones at the exact same time, but in a delay. So one might be a few seconds ahead, one might be 4 or 5 seconds behind, and sometimes some of the faster connecting phones, if they're like gigabit or something, they'll connect, they'll play the greeting before the next phone even gets to starting it. So delay usually 3 to 5 seconds is what's recommended to synchronize, just so we play as many of them at the same time. The more phones that are playing in synchronized at the same time, the easier it's going to be for your employees to hear those paging announcements in the system. So that's where we want to kind of do a balance of the no answer number rings and the paging group synchronization to find where we can get the most of the users using this at the exact same time, and where it's useful. Or if there's 20 phones all playing at the same time, it's going to be pretty loud in there, so everybody is going to have a chance to hear it. Where then if we're playing 10 different variations of the same greeting. So once we hit the save button at the top, in order to initiate a page, we just simply dial 1846. There is one catch to this. If I dial 1846, there is a user group permission that I can block. So I can block user groups from being able to use paging groups. So if it's something that we only want managers to be able to place calls to paging groups, in my user group permissions, there's a little checkbox that says allow initiation of paging groups. So we uncheck that box, and that disables certain phones. So if you have maybe phones in the lobby or just courtesy phones that you allow your customers to use, a lot of time we'll create a user group that just doesn't allow them to page, because for some reason if they hit the directory or something on that phone, we don't want them to be able to make an announcement over your whole paging system. So a lot of time we'll create a user group that blocks that, or certain user groups that only have access. So we block it for everybody by default, and we only give it access to one user group. So that's one thing to kind of keep in mind as you're planning paging groups, is who do you want to be able to page, and we can our engineering team can assist with deploying paging groups or voicemail distribution lists or route points, any of the things that we're kind of talking about today. Our engineering team can help get you some screenshots if you need, or if you say, hey, I got this built, can you jump in and just take a look? Great, yeah, that's we'll jump into the system. We can do a joint session and look through your configuration, maybe make any recommendations as needed. And then we always just recommend the easiest way, to figure out is just do a couple of tests, do a test page at the end of the business day or the beginning of the day, and just see how it is. Sometimes we need to tweak how many phones are in there, or by adding them or lowering them if it's too loud or some certain areas can't hear it. might just need to add a few more extensions into the paging group on one side of the building if the phones are a little bit more spread out. Sometimes it gets a little bit crazy if you put every phone in the building, because phones right next to each other, if you have cubicles that are pretty close together, it can get really loud in there. So a lot of times customers will try to space it out every few desks. They'll add to the paging group.
And Chris, actually, I'm going out of sequence here a little bit. Can you spend just a couple seconds on, since we are talking about some ShoreTel's advanced applications, they do have an advanced paging application that augments the paging capabilities of ShoreTel. Can you talk about that real quick so people understand that?
When ShoreTel made it, it used to be called like Supergroup Paging or so. I can't remember the original name for it. And they actually wrote it for a couple of customers who needed to page more than 100 phones. So they needed to page 200, 300, 400, 500 phones. But from a resource standpoint, they couldn't really accomplish that without overloading their server. So what they did is they wrote an advanced paging application. We have some customers who have it, and what it does is we create groups of users in it, and what it does is it'll page, if I put 400 users, it'll page them out in groups. So really what we're doing is we're taking those extension lists, in this kind of same theory, and we're just paging different extension lists at a time. So we do one recording for the paging group, and then it just plays out to these 50 users and these 50 users, and it can span multiple locations. And it's just an application that you configure, put the different users into it, and you can build multiple groups. So you can have a manufacturing group that only pages all of your manufacturing, buildings or something like that. But then you can have an all page that spans multiple locations or something like that. And it just allows you to add more than 100 users and page them in, with one page announcement without having to call 10 or 12 different extensions. You can call one extension and let the system take care of routing to the different locations.
Great.
By groups of phones.
Thanks. Let's get into ShoreTel Advanced Applications. This is something that we've learned that our customers don't know a lot about, and there's so much information to share. There's so much capability with ShoreTel. It's hard for us to convey that to people on a regular basis. So a couple things. We're going to be talking about it today. Contact your sales rep. Contact somebody on our support team if you have specific questions. We're just going to be talking super high level and just on a few of them today. But definitely reach out and ask if you have questions about ShoreTel's advanced applications. There's some real useful stuff in here.
So one thing I wanted to note on advanced applications, if you see any advanced applications that you like today, we offer 45-day trials of all of these advanced applications. So it's something that if you say, hey, well, I'd really like to try that Salesforce integration, it's something that you don't have to necessarily invest a bunch of money in to test it out. Is usually anywhere from 5 to 10 users. Most of these applications, the trials are for 45 days. So we can test, we can work with your sales team and the support team to get a trial set up and in production, and then you can have a small group of employees test it out before you invest any money in it.
Great. Yep, absolutely. The first one we're going to talk about is probably one of the most popular applications. ShoreTel has a few different ways they can integrate with Salesforce.com. This is not a local application you run on your desktop. This is completely browser-based, and it's embedded into your Salesforce web application. So among many things, as you can see a screenshot here, users can control their call handling modes. They can control their call center log in, log out if they're an agent. All of their directories are built into this application. They can click to dial from contacts. So say you open up a specific contact and the phone number will be hyperlinked or underlined. You can click to call. On inbound calls, we can do screen pop. So when a call is presented to an end user or an agent, the system can recognize the caller ID, basically do a match, and then pop one contact record or multiple contact records that you can pick from. We can log all call activities to specific accounts, so we can create tasks or events. So again, you can see a screenshot here. You can see all of your call control, hold, transfer, conference. You can look at a call log down below. You can see details on the specific call. All of your call control, a lot of the communicator type functionality plus a lot more can be built right into your Salesforce.com application. Again, like the things you see in ShoreTel Communicator, we can see our presence, which is your call handling mode presence, in office, out of office, in a meeting, etc. You can see your agent status, and you can see your company directory. So just like Communicator, I can start typing anybody in my company, first name, last name, and I can see their presence and their extension.
And one note on agent status is currently the agent status is your workgroup status. They are working on a modification to this to allow contact center agents to show their status, but right now it is only workgroup agents. So if you have agents that log in or out of workgroups, that's where they can control that built into the Salesforce add-in.
Customizable call information. This is presenting information to the end user. For example, the caller ID, the number that was dialed, the DNIS, perhaps a route point in the system. It shows the CCIVR, different things like that that can be presented to the agent so they have more information when they answer the call. And then you can have comments linked to the contact in case. So if you're using Salesforce as a service application or a sales application, while I'm on the call with someone, I can be typing my contacts and my comments real time. You know, received call from Chris, interested in XYZ, enter, and that comment will be linked directly to the contact. Or if it's a specific case, if you're using Salesforce service application, it can be comments that are linked directly to the case. And you can get pretty customizable with this. Customers can add their own fields to this particular embedded application. And then this just basically shows if someone was to expand the last 3 calls, it would show a lot more information about the last 3 calls that came in. So comments, results, things like that. This is really nice. This is in conjunction with another advanced application we're going to talk about in a second. ShoreTel is a pretty inexpensive, very useful call recorder application, which we'll talk about in a second. But this is pretty nice to where it can link various calls. So we can track various call activity within Salesforce as an activity. And as you can see here, someone went into it, saw that there was a call against a contact, went into the actual call, and they can click that listen link, and it'll take them directly into the ShoreTel call recorder application, directly to that recording. So that can be very helpful for sales managers, customer service managers, who are pulling up, say, an activity log for a particular rep or service person, or even a sales rep that wants to go back through and, what did I talk to this particular customer about? I talked to him a month ago. I talked to him 3 times. This is the time I talked to him in May. What were we talking about? Boom, listen, and they can actually listen to the entire call. Extremely helpful for people that are using Salesforce. We have customers using this. This is a kind of a tie between ShoreTel CDR database, so they're called detail database, which is all call activity. We can do more of a system level connection. That's why it says server-to-server export and integration directly into Salesforce. So that's where you can take high-level CDR data and run some and push that data into Salesforce. And then from Salesforce, we can display some very nice call reporting reports as far as number of outbound calls, inbound calls, hold times. All of that stuff can be presented in a nice, very pretty Salesforce-esque type fashion. So this is a very handy application if you're using Salesforce. In fact, we're rolling out right now a 750-seat enterprise contact center with ShoreTel nationwide, and they're a heavy Salesforce user. And I'm jumping to the second point here, but this is where you're seeing a picture of ShoreTel's Enterprise Contact Center script editor, which, by the way, if you don't know much about ShoreTel Enterprise Contact Center and you have call center needs, big or small, we're going to be doing some specialized discussions around that later. Extremely powerful and fairly cost-effective as far as call centers are concerned. But here's an example of where this is before the call even gets to the agent. I have a call come into my ShoreTel system. Let's say it's an enterprise contact center. I can look at their caller ID. I can collect the digits on their account information. Any way I can recognize this call, I can create logic in my system to route that call a specific way. So this is Salesforce integration well before the call even gets to the end user. So perhaps I ascertain through a virtual database dip, because it's a cloud database dip into the Salesforce cloud, that this is a VIP customer. So now I want to do priority-based routing. Or perhaps I recognize that this is a Spanish-speaking customer in my database, and so now I want to do a skills-based routing. So very, very powerful with this particular application. Or if those of you that don't even use Enterprise Contact Center, there's a non-ECC integration to where the call can be routed to the last agent based on the user ID or contact ID that was ascertained through the quote-unquote Salesforce step. So that's this very powerful application. So I spent a lot of time on the Salesforce piece because that seems to be the most popular. But if anybody's running Microsoft Dynamics, there's also an integration with ShoreTel CRM. You can see that we can also work in a Microsoft Office 365 environment. It's browser agnostic, same sort of thing, screen pop, click to dial, etc. So if people are running Microsoft CRM, there is an integration with ShoreTel that you should probably dig into, and we can help you research that a little more.
One note on the Dynamics is different than the Salesforce. There is a software application that you do have to install on your PCs for Dynamics, and then you point at your either website or as needed.
Zendesk, this is great. So we use Salesforce and we use Zendesk internally at Inflow. So we're really excited about this. We just rolled this out for our own organization. But with Zendesk is our help desk application, embedded cloud soft phone, which is pretty cool. Screen pops, click to call, auto ticket generation, so inbound call into your customer support team, recognize the caller ID. I can auto create a ticket for that particular customer based on the caller ID recognition. And just like Salesforce, we can do a link into the call recording through the ShoreTel call recorder application. No desktop software, so we're seeing a lot of, in fact, this 700+ seat call center uses Zendesk and Salesforce. So this is a real bell ringer for them. This is just a screenshot of what the ShoreTel application looks like embedded into Zendesk. So here you can see that an inbound call was answered. You can see that the person that's on the phone has the agent has the ability to end the call, hold, transfer. So you have all of your enterprise call control over to the right. You also have your logged in, logged out, and your call handling mode, all the Salesforce S-type integration stuff. And then you can actually you can link to the entire recorded call. So say a customer, for quality purposes, someone calls in a week later, says they were treated poorly on a specific ticket number. Go to that ticket number, click the recording, listen to what happened. Also, it can track the time, the duration of the call, which is really nice. So if you're wanting to track specific metrics on your customer service team as far as how much time are we spending with a particular customer, how much time is a specific agent spending supporting customers. So pretty powerful there. Desk.com, there's a integration to Desk.com for screen pops and embedded cloud soft phone and auto ticket generation. Very similar to all the stuff we see in Zendesk. We can also roll in Zendesk.com, which I guess is now owned by Salesforce. This is just another screenshot of someone in this particular Desk application. You can see all of your enterprise call control on the right-hand side, log in, log out, call handling mode, et cetera, et cetera. So very helpful. And these are pretty inexpensive, cost-effective applications. So if a critical part of your business is using Zendesk or Salesforce or Dynamic, I would definitely encourage you to explore this because, again, it's just another way for you to leverage the investment in your ShoreTel investment. So we wanted to talk about this because there's a lot of people that use workgroups. So ShoreTel workgroups are kind of the entry-level call center below the ShoreTel Enterprise Contact Center. So you can have agents log in and log out, and you can queue calls, and you can have supervisor views and agent views and queue views and et cetera. But the reporting has always been a little limited. And so ShoreTel's Advanced Applications Group built some pretty nice reporting, workgroup reports. So very graphical displays to see agent trends, some real-time dashboards that supervisors can use. So this is kind of an advanced suite of reporting applications, real-time and historical, around ShoreTel workgroups. So here's just, again, these are just a list of some of the things that we can report on: agent detail, agent view, abandoned calls, et cetera. If you're using workgroups, and workgroups work great for you, but you want to dive a little bit more and get some better business analytics and reporting, this would be a great option for you. This is an example of a trend view, so a moving graph that shows calls in queue, abandoned calls. You can run in different intervals. It can be color-coded with summary data displayed on the top. Again, this is just really the idea here is just to give you an introduction to some of the reporting that's around workgroups that ShoreTel can offer. Abandoned calls view, this can be built into the agent view, and this is where agents can actually see a list of all the abandoned calls, and they can right-click, click the call people back that might have been waiting in the workgroup agent queue or workgroup queue and then eventually hung up. Agent detail, this is just, again, launched from the agent view. This can be basically all the most recent calls in a specific period. Active calls are in green. You can change the length of time. So here's all, again, just all these kind of reports that can be launched from the agent view that give you your agents a lot more real-time and historical visibility at a glance. Another screenshot of maybe a better graphical representation of the number of workgroup calls answered within a specific time period. So here you can see a specific workgroup, order admin, and you can see the number of inbound calls that were answered by various agents in that group. Again, just more ways of displaying data to your supervisors and your agents. Another nice reporting application that shows basically how the current state of all the agents in a selected group, and it's a real-time view of agent utilization. This would be a great supervisor tool that's running on their PC that shows basically what's happening with all my agents right now. Who's on a call, who's logged out, who's in wrap-up, who's on a non-work group call. So this is, again, real time. This is just kind of a summary slide of, hey, if I'm a work group supervisor and I've been living with very limited work group real-time reporting or non-existent real-time reporting as a supervisor, here's a whole suite of real-time reports that I can have up on my screen as far as my agent utilization, how many calls are in queue, what are my abandon times and my hold times, all of that stuff can be displayed real-time at a glance. So a whole new world can be opened up to your work group supervisors. Again, if work groups are working well for you and just the one Achilles heel is some of the business analytics, real-time and historical, then you need to talk to us about some of these applications. So call recording is pretty expensive, right? There's a whole slew of products out there that do call recording. When I say call recording, ShoreTel out of the box has call recording where if I enable it or someone has the permissions, I can be on a call, I can essentially press a button on my phone, or I can right-click record from my communicator, or I can have someone else ad hoc initiate a call recording, say a supervisor. That's just on the fly. Well, we have customers, hey, I want all my calls recorded to use for situations like we were showing before where I can link it into my Salesforce. We use it all the time on our support side. If someone is unhappy, they felt they might have been treated poorly, or even just research, we need to go back and see what happened on a specific case. We record all calls. Well, the ShoreTel Call Recorder is an application that runs right in the ShoreTel director. It's persistent, so it can record calls that come into an operator, then get transferred to an end user, et cetera. So the call recording can follow the call or not. We can, there's a web interface that ShoreTel provides where you can go search for specific calls and pull it up. And again, the price point's way less than a lot of your third-party solutions. It's not the Cadillac of call recording, and it's not supposed to be with its price point. I mean, as far as doing screen scrapes and some of the PCI compliancy stuff and some of the things that people need around call recording might not be there, but we can help you delineate if it's a good selection for you. But it's pretty inexpensive, and for any business that wants to implement a call recording for quality purposes or whatever the case is, it's great. Especially if you couple the call recording with applications like Salesforce and Zendesk and others, to where you can really start capturing some good data. Some bonus peripheral uses, 911 calls. So we have school districts. Anytime someone dials 911, they want to do an after-action sort of review. So they want all 911 calls recorded. Again, it's not the Cadillac of call recording, but it's going to meet 95% of most call recording needs, and it's pretty inexpensive, and it's built right into ShoreTel. So if you're interested, definitely connect up with one of your sales representative or one of our help desk or support people. So the emergency notification application, I could spend an entire hour just talking about this application. This is extremely popular for our educational customers. But some examples, someone dials 911. Well, that's great. They dial 911, and that's the external facing. But what if we want internal facing stuff? Well, I can do screen pops to various desktops that display where the 911 call is placed, building 2, cube 3. It can display that in a text fashion. I can acknowledge that. So like popping to security personnel or receptionists. So let's say 911 call goes out, ambulance shows up, where do they go? Well, the operator can greet the ambulance, or emergency personnel can greet the ambulance, and they're armed with even more specific data on where that 911 call was placed. In addition to just doing screen pops with the emergency notification application, I can do things like I can call external numbers. So maybe I call a specific list of cell phone numbers for safety officers or management, and I can do a text-to-speech translation that says 911 call placed at building 3, cube 2. So I can do external calls, or I can even do an overhead page. There's a lot of things we can do. And when I say the overhead page, that's a great example of the one below it, lockdown. So we're doing this with some of our educational customers to where if someone was to dial a code on a phone, it will say you've initiated a lockdown procedure to proceed in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then boom, you can initiate a whole series of things. I can place an overhead page. We're now in lockdown. Return to your classrooms. We can do things like do the screen pops. We can call external numbers. We can do all the text-to-speech translations. So the emergency notification was originally built for all more emergency type stuff. Works extremely well in multi-site and campus type environments where these things are becoming more and more critical. Extremely popular. But then we have customers that use it for a lot of different things. As far as, like you can see, parking blue light, cleanup requests. You can have different codes that do different screen pops, and you can initiate a series of events, whether it's screen pops, calling internal numbers, external numbers, paging, etc., based on where the code was dialed and when. So very popular application. Again, this is just supposed to be a high-level stuff, so if we want to get into it in a little more detail, then contact one of your sales personnel or support people. ShoreTel is a real nice outbound campaign IVR application to be used for, say, schools use it for snow days. Basically, you can do outbound dialing. You can load up a script with dynamic content. We have a lot of our medical customers using this for appointment reminders. So this is where, again, you can load up a list of calls that you need to be placed automatically, and you can announce greetings on the outbound, or you can say, if you have questions, press 2 to speak to a company representative, and then you can link them into a call group or an operator or something like that.
Yeah, pretty well. Yeah, most customers are using it for, big events that they have people registered. They want to put the registration in there and call them and let them know that, to remind them of an event, or like you said, their past due bill. Some companies, doctors' offices will use it for appointment reminders. They'll upload a list every day and use it for appointment reminders.
Again, just another slide showing how some examples of how people use it. New product promotion, appointment reminders, school flu outbreak, balance due, customer satisfaction surveys, etc. And you can see this example, thanks for your recent visit, on a scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 5, how satisfied are you? So you can do some telephone surveys. Again, on all these apps, this is just a few of the applications that ShoreTel provides. We're just trying to show the ones that are probably the most interesting. So thanks everybody for all your time, and we will talk to you next month. Bye-bye.